Hi, my name is Jean Maxwell. I'm the director of From Bondage to Freedom Ministries. I recently interviewed a lovely young lady named Sadie Beiler. She didn't want to stay in the Amish church, so she left. Instead of just letting her go, they abducted her and held her hostage for 3 weeks. They then sent her to Green Pastures and a ministry out in Ohio, trying to turn her back into a compliant Amish woman. What the Amish church and the enemy meant for evil, though, God meant for good. While out in Ohio, she found God, got gloriously saved, and found the strength to stand up to the Amish church. Let's watch her amazing story. Hi, Sadie. Thank you so much for coming today. Um, I'm anxious to hear your story. So you grew up down in the Quarryville area
Yes, I did.
in Lancaster County.
Yep.
And so just go ahead and start wherever you want to start with your story.
All right. Well, yeah, I grew up in Lancaster, in Quarryville. Grew up Amish. My parents have a family of 6 boys and 2 girls. I was the only girl for 13 years. Was blessed with my first sister for 4 days before my 13th birthday. So I grew up with boys. I've always been, more of a risky person and
More of a tomboy.
more of a tomboy, and always did what the boys did. Always into more scary things and um yeah. So I I can say I love my family. Back in the days, yeah, I thought everyone was against me, and my family was just it was one of those families where no one liked us and no one wanted to accept us and we're just different people. Um but yeah, I can say I can now say, I see why we didn't have a good home life, but um there was always tension in our family. There was always anger, um abuse, just not really any love for each other. Um, Always just doing anything to irritate the other person, and of course, boys are boys, and they're gonna do anything to, you know, tease their sister. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just my dad was always just seemed like he was always angry, always flying off the handle. We were never really allowed to do what we wanted to do. Um,
And what about your
and
mom?
my mom was always she always kind of stuck up for us kids because she was like, well, it's okay for them to play, it's okay for them to have fun, they're kids, it's okay. But then dad kind of got mad at mom for sticking up for us, and it just kind of created tension between dad and mom. And then we kind of paired up with mom because dad was always angry, and that made dad even more mad. um
Mm-hmm.
and just with his anger and his just we were just never allowed to do anything. Just kind of it made us really rebellious. Um, I honestly I had hate for my dad. I thought he was the worst dad around, and I didn't even know why he was able to be a dad. And I do remember asking mom why she married dad, and she was like, well, because he needed someone in his life. And I was like, okay, mom. Well, I don't know. I don't know the reason you guys are together, but okay. And yeah, so I just remember dad always being angry. It just didn't seem like he had any love for us, and I compared my dad to other dads. Um, and so as I grew rebellious, I started working for an ex-Amish lady at a donut shop, and I kind of saw the other side of the world. I saw the roses and the green grass, and um, so I kind of got into knowing, there's something better out there. I've always been that person where I like activity. I love hanging out with people, and I love getting to know more people, and I just wanted to do fun things. And I just always thought the Amish life was so boring. Um, I
So
didn't
you
really get the sense out of the youth group. I just thought it was just nonsense.
so you never felt comfortable in your Amishness.
Nope,
Okay.
nope. I did not like my Amish clothes. I always compared my clothes with other people. I always compared my life with other people. Um, I never agreed with the rules. Um, I didn't agree with things they said in church, and I never really understood what they said in church either because it was all in German. And I was like, I didn't understand anything. And so yeah, I was really comfortable with being around English people, and I was always, whenever someone was around with a phone, I was into the phone, and I wanted technology and I wanted more access, and um so yeah, I turned 16 and started going with the youth group, and the people that I hung out with were just not really my type of people. They didn't want to do the fun things that I wanted to do, and they kind of had their own life, and I kind of had my own life. I just went along with it. Um, but I wanted more activity. I wanted to hang out. I wanted Saturday nights. I wanted to go bowling. I wanted volleyball parties. I wanted everything I wasn't allowed to have. Um, and then the year of 2020 came along, and it was the summer, that youth were joining the church, and it was, of course, expected for me to go because the girls younger than me were joining church, and my brother was joining church, and well, why wouldn't I? And I knew that people were expecting me to do it, so I never. I never thought I would join the Amish church. I thought I would leave before that, but I was only 17, and I I never knew how to make the step. I didn't know how to step out. Um, so I went the first
You
time of
didn't
joining
know that you
church.
had a choice.
Yeah.
You felt like you didn't have a choice.
Yep. Feel that was like, yeah. I always felt like I didn't have a choice. I just had to do what other people told me to do.
Okay.
Um, and so yeah, the first time came around to join the baptism classes, and I came home and I was like, I ain't doing this. I ain't doing this. I just I thought it was just so out of out of here. I just yeah. Um, and so, the next week's was really hard because I didn't want to go, but I knew I had to. I didn't think I had a choice. Um, and the second time came around and I went, and I came home and I told myself I'm not going again. I just couldn't deal with it. I did not agree with it. I didn't understand it. And so I made the choice that I'm not going to go again. I didn't know how it's going to work out. I didn't know what's going to happen. Um, but in the meantime, of joining church, I had gotten a phone. I had a phone while the times that I was going. Um, I started hanging out with people. I started sneaking out through the nights, and of course, no one knew it. Um, and I was hanging out with people. I started dating. I had a boyfriend. He was an Amish, well, ex-Amish, and he was driving. Um, and I I was just ready for freedom. I was tired of the bondage I was in, and I knew that there was something better, and I was searching for it, and I didn't know how to find it. Um, and then Saturdays before the third time of the baptism classes, um, I had plans on leaving that Saturday night, and we had a family reunion that day. And my parents and all my siblings had gone already except me and my older brother. And I was slowly but surely getting myself ready, not wanting to go. Um, and my brother comes to my door and he's like, "Are you ready to go?" I said, "No, I'm still getting myself ready." And he looks at me and he's like, "Do you have anything in the house that you're not supposed to have?" And I'm like, "What do you mean things I'm not supposed to have? What are you talking about?" And he leaves. He just ups and leaves. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? And did he find my stuff? So as soon as he leaves, I go up to the attic where I have my stuff, and lo and behold, it wasn't there. And I freaked out. I called my boyfriend. I'm like, "Hey, could you be here in 15 minutes?" I kind of told him what's going on, and so I ended up packing my stuff and leaving. Um, and I was going to write a letter, but in the time of taking my stuff out to the car, um, I heard footsteps upstairs. I was down in the basement, and ended up being my cousin. And we always connected with each other, and So yeah, I ended up living that morning, that day, and I was living at my friend's house for 2 weeks. Um, in the meantime, there was people calling me and trying to convince me back and everything, and I thought I had the power of not letting them do that. But I had then 2 weeks later, I had gone home to go with my mom to a chiropractor. Came home and then she was like, "Well, your aunt wants to talk to you. You know, can we go talk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so we drove up there. We got there. I had a driver to go back up to my friend's house that night, and apparently they canceled the driver, got another driver. And she told me, she's like, "Yeah, there's another driver coming." Well, like 15 minutes later, a driver pulls up, and out get three Amish couples, and I'm like, "Who's this?" They're like, "Oh, well, it's this team that your parents got together because they need support." So they
That
hiked
who needed support, you or your
my
mom?
parents.
Okay.
Yeah. So they hiked me in the house, and they started asking me questions, and I wouldn't talk. I ended up being there for 2 days. Um, they basically locked me in. Um,
So these three couples, the support team,
mhm,
actually locked you in the
mhm.
house and wouldn't let you leave.
Yep, the support group, the support team. There was three Amish couples. Um, they got me in the house, and people stood by the doors so that I can't get out. They sat me down, and some of my uncles were there. They started getting more people together, and I remember the 2 nights that I was there. There was people sitting around my bed, um, watching every move I make, and there was people by every door downstairs, and um, the cops had gotten involved. Now I don't remember the backstory of that, because I was never really told about it. I mean, I heard about it, but
But they weren't able to rescue you, the
no.
police. Okay.
Um, so that night, the second night, they had told me that the next morning I could go do some things with my aunts, and there's a driver coming. Well, the next morning I wake up, and they're like, "Yeah, the driver's here, and you want to go, go away with your aunts." I'm like, "No, I don't," but okay. Um, and I barely remember what went on for the 2 days that I was there because I was so mad and I was not willing to talk. I didn't want anything to do with them. They had actually taken my phone while I was there. Um, I remember going to the bathroom and calling my friend and saying, "Hey, I'm locked up, I don't know what to do." And I believe they were the ones that called the cops then because I know that they had come down as well and they had gotten my boyfriend down and they were like going back and forth past the place, and but they weren't able to accomplish anything. Um, so yeah, I got into the van, and the guy in the front seat was the head of the support team, and I was smart enough that I looked at the paper that he has, and there was an address for Good Samaritan Hospital. Now,
So
what
you
is
weren't going out just for a fun day with your aunts.
no? That was manipulation. It was
Yeah.
their way of getting me out.
Okay.
So they took me up there. They put me in the room, and the nurse comes in, and she starts talking to me, and she doesn't see anything wrong with me. I had plans on going to work the next day, and the support team didn't allow me to call my boss because they were like, they can do it. And I said, no, I didn't give them the number. So I asked the nurse if I can use their phone to call my boss. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, you can use the phone. There's nothing wrong with you." Well, I ended up being there by that night, or till that night. And I got out, I got into the van, and the nurses, the doctors told him there's nothing wrong with him, or with me. Um, and so I get out in the van, and um, they were like, not to freak you out, but we're still trying to find a place for you because Phil Haven doesn't have room for you, and we tried like 8 other places and they don't have room for you. So we're still trying to decide where we can take you. Like 12, 1ish o'clock that night, they were like, they got a call from one of the support teams that their brother, a childless couple, has an apartment in their house and they can move me in there. We got there and they sat me in, and they thought I was that mentally ill that I would not notice what's going on, but I saw them coming in the door with, big plyboards and nails and big pieces of boards, and I thought I knew what they were doing. So it was like 2-ish in the morning. They sent me upstairs, and of course, the windows were nailed shut, the doors were closed with plyboard, and
Oh
um,
my.
yeah,
So you were a
and
prisoner once again.
I was a prisoner once again.
Wow.
They kept locking me up, and that night there was three couples around my bed to keep an eye over me. Um, and that's how it was for the 3 weeks that I was there. There was people around my bedside every night, just keeping an eye on me. I had, in the meantime, started working at a produce place with one of the team's daughters, um, but I wasn't allowed to be outside before 8 o'clock and not after the sun was down. I wasn't allowed to use the phone. I wasn't allowed to go downstairs without permission. There's people there all the time. Um, One of the team members then ended up, before we left that house, ended up taking the nails out of the window, which gave me a little bit more freedom because I told him that I just can't do this, and there's nothing wrong with me. Um, and so the school teacher that had wanted to be in the apartment then said it's time for her to get back in, and so they took me to Levi and Mary, which was one of the team members. So I was there for 2 days. I was going to go to work the next morning, and Mary tells me that, yeah, she knows I'm excited to go to work, but um, they're taking me to Green Pastures today. They took me to Green Pastures. Um, was there for 3 weeks and came home. There's a lot that happened in between those times, but I came home. That's kind of how the support group got set up because of, me leaving the Amish and then coming back. Um, they did end up forcing me back into joining church, and I did join the Amish church then. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of how the support group got started. In the meantime, my parents' marriage was still not the best. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of miscommunication. Um, and time kind of went on. Um, and then the support group was still involved, and um, my parents were barely able to make decisions without asking the support group. They had so much control over them, or thought they had, and so then May came along of last year, and this one night they gathered at our house, and they said, "Well, it doesn't look like this marriage is working. Looks like you all still need help." And they told my parents to have their things packed by the next morning. Um, and they actually left with mom at like 1 o'clock that night. She had to have everything packed. They took her to New York at I remember what the place was called. And then the next morning they took dad to Sunrise Meadows. Um, then the next day they took two of my brothers to one of the team members of the support group. The next day they took two of my other brothers to another team member. And then 2 days later they took my two sisters to the third team member of the support group. Um, and left me and my two brothers, um, my older brother and the brother next to me, at home with our 20-acre property. I had 3 jobs at the time, and I was supposed to cut off my jobs and stay at home and take care of our produce that we grew for our customers. And my two brothers had full-time jobs, so I was the only one at home. I woke up early in the morning, packed their lunches, got them off to work. They came home and unpacked their lunches and went to bed. It's kind of the routine for 6 weeks. People coming in and out, helping us out. And 6 weeks after my family was separated like that, um, in the meantime, I had told dad and mom that I am sick and tired of the support group. I don't want anything to do with them. I just felt trapped the whole time. Um, and when I had come home from Green Pastures to this point, they had told me that I am not allowed to use the phone, leave the property, have contact with my people, And I was just sick and tired of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my own phone in May.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, yeah, it was in May. And apparently they found it out. And so in the meantime, I had set up another support group. Um, it was either setting up a support group or leaving. And mom was like, well, you're not leaving, just set up another support group. So I did that. And yeah, Tuesday nights, I received visitors, or I had visitors, and it was the support group and the ministers. And they were like, what is your plan with this smartphone that you have? I'm like, what do you mean smartphone? I was always kind of behind the back. Um, and they're like, oh, don't try to go behind the bushes. Someone saw you with their smartphone. I'm like, okay. They're like, well, don't you think that you need help with that? I'm like, nope, I don't. I got this. Um, and yeah, so they were like, well, we have a place for you to go. They think that I need help with that.
To get over your cell phone addiction.
To get over my cell phone addiction.
Okay.
And so they ended up taking me to Operation 612, which is in Sugar Creek, Ohio.
Okay.
They had told me that I'm going to be there till my parents come back, and they don't know how long that is, maybe 2 months, maybe half a year. So I get out there, and after they had put me there and they went home, the people there told me, well, officially it's an 8-month program. And so I was like, oh, I'm staying for 8 months. So, yeah, they had no idea the place that they were sending me. They just wanted me to be at a place because they thought the place was for addictions. Um, they had no idea
So
what they were getting me
they
into
thought they were in control, and
of my healing.
yeah, and so what really happened there at this place?
Yeah. Um, what then started happening is, I started reading my Bible. I started hearing more about God. We had Bible studies every morning. And they were totally against the Bible.
So yeah, you
So
finally had access to
I
God and
finally had
God's
access to
word.
freedom.
Yeah.
The word was freedom.
So they thought they were controlling you, and instead, God was bringing you out into freedom.
Yep. I found true freedom once I got there. The place, I thank God to this very day that I was given the opportunity to go there.
Yeah.
I did realize that they sent me there for a self-an addiction, and they thought that I was, crazy over boys, and because I was always doing things with boys. Um, and yeah, I found true freedom there. I realized that that's what they sent me there for, but I soon found out that I was there for different reasons. I was there to find my relationship with God. I was there to find the truth. I was there to get to know God's word.
Wow.
And I was there to find life.
Wow.
And that is what I found.
So what the enemy
meant for evil, God meant for good.
Yeah.
Amen to that. And yeah, so I got there in July. By September, God had given me 3 signs that He wants me to leave the Amish. I started dressing. I started not dressing Amish, but I didn't really say that I left the Amish. And then.
And what were the 3 signs that you asked God for?
The 3 signs were, the one I had asked Him to send someone my way that tells me that people say it's not okay to leave the Amish if you were born Amish, but it is. The other sign was I asked God that if He wants me to leave the Amish, He would show me a heart cloud in the sky, and He did.
And He did send someone to tell you that also?
He did.
Okay, what was the third one?
And the third one, I had asked Him to show me a heart cloud again, and He did. And I have seen a heart cloud almost every week since that.
Wow.
And so going through the program, I got to know more and more about my Father, God, and my relationship grew. I ended up being baptized.
So you were born again,
I was
baptized.
born again. I was saved. I was baptized. Um, I had so many revelations. Um, I was able to go to conferences where we just praised and worshiped God for the weekends. It was amazing. And even at the hardest times where I thought, it's just horrible that my family isn't together, everyone else's family has it all together. My family was separated and there was so much drama going on.
Mm-hmm.
Even at those lowest times, God kept saying to me, keep going, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Back in November, we had a prayer night in the building where 612 has their church. And I had realized that everything got quiet. The music had stopped. The people weren't really doing anything, and I'm like, what is going on? Well, I heard God's voice, and He was like, I have something to tell you. And what I heard that night is, your family is going through what they're going through, but they are getting back together, and you will be able to help other families back together.
Wow.
And I I hold on to that. Um, and I graduated the program in May. Um, and then I moved into the graduate house that is provided for people who want to stay around. It's to, keep the people stabilized and to keep them connected. So I moved in there, started my job, and was a very busy person. I'm always into helping other people, even if I'm busy myself. Um, and then I moved into the other graduate house, and yeah. In the meantime, my family was going through very hard times. My parents were then moved to Beams of Mercy, where they spent like 3 months. Um, did not enjoy themselves there, and then they ended up putting Dad to Psalm 51 Ranch, in Michigan, where they also thought that they're, keeping their control over him. But that is then where he found the Lord and he was born again.
Wow.
He had some really, really good experiences there. They took Mom to Gentle Solutions, which is also in Ohio, where she started hearing from God and she found the Lord. And um,
Wow.
then they took Mom to Psalm 51 to be with Dad for his last 3 weeks there and for his graduation. I
Wow.
was able to visit my parents for the very first time, um, out in Michigan the week before Dad graduated. And my younger sister was allowed to be with my mom just before she went out there. And then Dad, Mom, and my youngest sister were living in this little house at Psalm 51. Um, the day of Dad's graduation, they came home back to Quarryville, PA. And then my youngest sister, in the meantime, was living with my grandparents so that she can start going to school where my brothers used to go to school before they were separated.
Mm-hmm.
And so then my other sister was allowed to be with my parents too. My older brother was living across the road, so as soon as my dad's came home, he also came home. My brother next to me, or younger than me, was living at my uncle's just down the road. And a week after Dad and Mom were home, he was also allowed to come back home to my parents. So 4 of the kids were allowed to come back home within a week's time of Dad's coming home. The rest were still at different places. They were two and two and two at the different support teams, but in the span of a year, they were all taken to different homes.
So split up
All
totally.
totally split up. Um, my two younger sisters were not treated the best at the places they were, so we were very concerned about that. My 6-year-old sister at the time, was being taken to an Amish counselor where she was told that she's not, like a normal kid, and she needs glasses because, she can't function right and she doesn't obey the people that she's with. And that was all because she was confused because she was told by her parents, we don't do that or we do this, and then she was told by other people different
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard for her to function. And my younger sister, um, was at a childless couple. When my mom was at jet dissolution, she had come home because she was told that my younger sister is allowed to be with her. So she came to Pennsylvania from Ohio to take my sister out. And the couple ended up going out of state that weekend so that my mom's not able to take her home. She traveled to PA 3 times before she was able to have my younger sister with her. And all those times they either said, oh, well, she's not ready, or they went out of state so that she can, or there was always something. And then because my mom was finding her freedom and wanting to make her own choices, she decided that she's not going to go with everything that the support team was telling her. But because of that, they went to the ministers about it, and then they put her out of council because she's not obeying the support team.
Mm-hmm.
So she is still out of council, and they told her that, it wouldn't take a lot till she would be in the bond, like excommunicated from the church. And
so she still wants to stay Amish. Okay,
they
so
still kind of have
are your
that
parents
mindset,
trying
but
to
mom has told me
get
numerous
the kids
times
back together.
that it would not.
So I know that they
not
want the
take that
kids
much
back
for her to
together.
just say,
But I also
or
know that
need.
mom
because
mom is wondering,
they're
is it
tired of
worth
the
to have the kids
control,
home right
the
now?
abuse,
Is
the
it just going to add more
manipulation,
stress
the
to
power, and
dad's
just everything
sickness
that's
and him
going
not
on.
being back at work?
She
And so
reads her Bible.
they
she
know
reads
that,
the
you know,
devotions.
they
and,
want the kids back home.
She has a relationship with
but
God, and
She also
she
believes
knows
that
that
this
the
is
things
not
that
the
the
right
support
timing
team
right
is
now
doing is
because
not
of
right.
where dad is at.
But she
Okay.
needs to step out of that fear
And
in
also,
order to make
you
those
know,
choices. And it's hard for her to do that because
I think
of what
right
she
now
was
they're in
taught
a spot
and
where
they're brainwashed.
Sure.
they have so
There's
much.
lots
They
of
still
fear.
have fear.
Yeah.
They're still kind of
Yeah.
in that mindset of doing what people want them to do. They are stepping out of that a lot, and mom is finding her voice more and more, and they're finding who they truly are, and that they do have a voice and that they do have a choice. And so
So they're kind of still stuck in the middle between the old ways and the new ways.
yeah,
Okay.
just like they have a relationship with God. It's going to take time for them to step out of that, to take some
Sure.
courageous steps, and to move past what people say they have to do and what they want. Now the support group has not been in contact with my parents for the past 5 weeks since we were rounding up the kids.
Okay.
They have not heard anything from them except the other night one of the couples brought one of the boys back home to visit my parents, and one of the support team members was with them.
Okay.
But then they left that night again. Other than that, they have not heard anything from the support group because we believe that they're scared.
Yay.
And so that gave my parents a just more of a want to actually step out and show them who has power
Right.
over their family, over their kids,
Yeah.
and that they are capable of making.
So what about you? You're staying with Fanny.
I'm staying with Fanny. I am glad that I'm able to stay closer or be closer to my family.
Yeah.
And I want to help them out wherever I can. I do have an awesome relationship with my dad and my mom. There's so many people that tell them, don't be in contact with her, don't, let her come on your property. But they told me when they found out, they told me, we don't care who you are, where you're at, how you dress, and what you're doing. You are our daughter, and we love you.
Aww.
And that is the most amazing thing that I have heard from my parents. And my relationship with dad and mom is like it has never been before. And I am super thankful that, maybe our relationships were how they were, but God.
But they're new. It's all new.
But God.
But God.
Yeah.
But God. Well, thank you
Amen.
so much for coming today and sharing your story. And if there's, what would you like other people to know that are trapped in that bondage that you were in? If there's anything we'd want them to know, what would it be?
For me, with what I experienced and then what I would love for other people to experience is, even though there's so much fear, you know, remember that no one has power over you unless they give it to you, or unless you let them. No one has power over you unless you let them, or unless you give it to them. And that is something that I did. I let them have power over me. I let them control my thoughts, my actions, and my choices.
Mm-hmm.
And have a belief of your own. Don't let other people make you believe this or that. Believe what you believe, and don't give them that power. And giving them power can come in many different ways. It can come in doing exactly what they want you to do, going along with everything that they say, making choices because they say that's what you have to do. No, make your own choice and stand on it. Have a firm foundation and let the Lord lead you. Because I don't believe in rules. I believe in the 10 commandments and that, we should follow God's rules and his commandments, but people, no. Follow Jesus and let people be people. Because in
Amen.
the end, who is our judge? If judgment day comes, is God going to be there and he's going to judge us, or are the people going to be there? And so don't make choices because of people, but with obedience from God, or for God.
Amen.
And yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there that are trapped, and I just want them to know that there's freedom. There is freedom. We have to find the right people, and we have to stand up for ourselves and make choices for our own.
So if there are people that see this video and they need help,
Mhm.
can they contact you
Absolutely.
and you'll help them?
Absolutely. I am more than willing to help other people
That's,
in many ways.
that's amazing, and that's great, and that's God.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming today. So appreciate it. God
Absolutely.
bless you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a miracle God performed in Sadie's life. God had his hand not only on her life, but on the lives of her parents and the rest of her family also. Thank you for watching her testimony. If you're in a desperate situation in the Amish church and need help to get out, please contact From Bondage to Freedom. Our contact info is at the end of this video. If you'd like to contact Sadie directly, contact us and we will give you her phone number. Please pray for Sadie, her family, and the Amish church. God has a plan for them all. I pray that his will is accomplished. Amen.